The night I carried my work rival out of a rain-soaked parking lot, she was crying so quietly that I almost missed it. Her expensive heels were hanging from one hand, her hair was stuck to her face, and the woman who had spent 3 years trying to beat me in every meeting could barely stand. I could have walked away. Part of me wanted to. But then she looked at me through red, exhausted eyes and whispered something that changed everything. She didn't want to go home. For 3 years, Elena Carter had been the person I least wanted to see every Monday morning. We worked for the same advertising firm, competed for the same promotions, and somehow always ended up fighting over the same accounts. If I delivered a brilliant presentation, Elena would find the weakness. If she landed a major client, I would spend the night figuring out how to outperform her next time. We weren't friends. We weren't even close to friendly. We were rivals, and everyone in the office knew it. Yet that night, none of that mattered. It was almost midnight when I found her sitting alone outside a restaurant after our company's annual celebration. The others had already left. Elena had clearly drunk far more than she normally would, and she was trying unsuccessfully to unlock her car. When I approached, she immediately became defensive, insisting she was fine. But when she stumbled against the car door, I knew she wasn't. I took her keys, called a ride, and eventually brought her to my apartment because she couldn't remember where she'd left her purse and couldn't safely tell me her address. I gave her the spare room, left a glass of water beside the bed, and slept on my couch. If you believe kindness can change a person's life, that people deserve second chances, and that sometimes the person we dislike most is fighting a battle we cannot see, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in compassion, and subscribe to the channel for more heart-touching stories. The next morning, I woke to 3 quiet knocks on my apartment door. When I opened it, Elena was standing there. She wasn't wearing makeup. Her eyes were swollen from crying, and she was holding a small black notebook tightly against her chest. For several seconds, she didn't say anything. She simply looked at me as though she was trying to decide whether she could trust me with something she had spent years hiding. Then she started crying again. That was when I realized the woman standing in front of me wasn't the Elena I knew from the office. The confident executive who could tear apart a proposal in 30 seconds was gone. In her place was someone exhausted, frightened, and completely alone. I let her inside. She sat at my kitchen table and slowly explained what had happened the night before. She had not planned to get drunk. She had barely eaten all day because of the pressure surrounding a major client presentation. But the celebration had brought back memories she had been trying to bury, and alcohol had made everything spill over. Her younger brother, Daniel, had died 2 years earlier. I had never known. Daniel had been 24, a talented musician with a bright future. He had struggled with depression after losing his job, and Elena had spent months trying to help him. One night, while she was traveling for work, Daniel called her. She missed the call because she was presenting to a client. By the time she returned the call, it was too late. She had never forgiven herself. That guilt had changed her. She became obsessed with succeeding because success was the one thing she believed she could control. She stopped trusting people. She stopped allowing herself to be vulnerable. She turned every workplace relationship into a competition because competition was easier than connection. And then she told me something that made my stomach drop. The promotion we had been fighting for wasn't just another promotion to her. She needed it to keep her apartment. Daniel had left behind debts from his final months, and Elena had quietly taken responsibility for them. She had been paying everything herself while pretending at work that nothing was wrong. The company had recently announced that only one of us would become regional creative director, and Elena believed losing that position would destroy the fragile life she had built. Suddenly, every argument we'd ever had looked different. I remembered the mornings when she arrived late with dark circles under her eyes. The lunches she skipped. The times she stayed in the office until everyone else had gone home. I had assumed she was ambitious. Maybe she was simply trying to survive. I didn't tell her that I understood. I didn't tell her she shouldn't blame herself. Those words felt too small for something that had haunted her for years. Instead, I told her that missing one phone call didn't make her responsible for her brother's death. She stared at the table. Then she opened the notebook. Inside were dozens of handwritten pages. Some contained ideas for campaigns. Others contained memories of Daniel. There were song lyrics, photographs, small reminders of places they'd visited together, and one sentence written repeatedly across several pages: "Should have answered." I understood why she had knocked on my door. She wasn't there because of the night before. She was there because, for the first time in years, someone had seen her at her weakest and hadn't used it against her. That realization changed something between us. At work, things became awkward at first. Elena avoided me. I avoided mentioning what she had told me. We returned to our usual routines, but the rivalry no longer felt the same. I noticed little things I had never noticed before. She would quietly leave food on the desk of an exhausted intern. She once stayed late to help a junior designer who was about to quit. She donated anonymously to a local music program because Daniel had loved music. She wasn't heartless. She had simply been hurting. Then came the presentation that would determine the promotion. Our biggest client wanted a campaign focused on mental health and second chances. Elena and I were assigned to lead competing concepts. For weeks, I worked on mine. But one evening, I found Elena alone in the conference room, staring at her presentation with tears in her eyes. Her campaign wasn't polished. It wasn't designed to impress executives. It was personal. It told the story of people who appeared strong while silently fighting battles no one could see. I knew immediately that hers was better. But there was a problem. One of the executives reviewing the campaign had previously warned me that Elena's emotional approach might be considered too risky. If I remained silent, I could win the promotion. Instead, I told the executives exactly what I believed. Her campaign deserved to be heard. Not because she was my rival. Because it was honest. The room went silent. Elena looked at me as if she couldn't understand what I had just done. The next morning, the company announced the decision. Elena got the promotion. I didn't. For the first time in 3 years, I lost to her. And strangely, I didn't feel defeated. A few days later, Elena came to my desk and placed an envelope in front of me. Inside was a handwritten letter from her. She explained that she had spent years believing everyone eventually abandoned you when you became inconvenient, weak, or broken. She had believed that being vulnerable meant giving someone a weapon they could use against you. But that night, I had taken her home without asking for anything. I had protected her dignity when she couldn't protect it herself. And when I had the opportunity to destroy her professionally, I had done the opposite. She said I had reminded her that kindness wasn't weakness. It was courage. Months passed. I eventually received another opportunity at a different branch of the company and accepted a position that suited me even better. Elena and I remained in contact. The rivalry disappeared, replaced by something neither of us expected: friendship. She began therapy and slowly stopped blaming herself for Daniel's death. She even started volunteering with a mental health organization in his memory. One evening, she invited me to a small concert. A young musician performed a song Daniel had written before he died. As the final notes filled the room, Elena reached for my hand. She didn't cry this time. She smiled. And I realized that sometimes saving someone doesn't mean doing something extraordinary. Sometimes it means simply staying when leaving would be easier. Sometimes it means carrying someone home through the rain, sitting quietly beside them, or refusing to use their darkest moment against them. We spend so much of our lives judging people by what they show us. We call them arrogant when they're scared, cold when they're grieving, difficult when they're exhausted, and competitive when they're desperately trying to prove they are still worth something. But everyone is carrying a story. And sometimes the person standing across from you isn't your enemy. Sometimes they're simply someone waiting for one person to be kind enough to stay. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who may need to hear this message, and subscribe to the channel. You never know how much a simple story about kindness and second chances might mean to someone silently struggling today. And before you go, I want you to leave one special comment: kindness is never wasted. Write it below if you believe one small act of compassion can change the direction of someone's life. Because that night, I thought I was simply helping my work rival get home safely. I didn't know I was helping her find her way back to herself. And perhaps that's the strangest thing about kindness. We often think we're giving something away. But sometimes, without realizing it, we're giving someone the courage to begin again. The end.